The 2024 NBA regular season dwindling down, the whole country's focus about winning their brackets for the NCAA tournament. After the horrendously dry All-Star game behind us, we can only see high-level competitive basketball from here on out, but we won't be seeing many of the players on this list come postseason time. Like, it wasn't obvious, proven not to be legit stars to build around, not as impactful as many thought about a year ago. With diminished value, these players aren't what many thought they were. Starting with DeJounte Murray of the Atlanta Hawks being in heavy trade rumors only to remain staying put at the ATL. Safe to say, the backcourt duo of him and Trey has been a massive disappointment. Not only does he not help Atlanta compete against top-heavy Boston and Milwaukee, but even the Knicks, Magic, and Pacers much better positioned to succeed above the Hawks. From looking like San Antonio's franchise player post DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge era, made his first All-Star appearance back in 2022, second in most improved player, averaged nearly a triple-double, along with leading the league in steals, giving the franchise vibes with Kawhi 2.0, led San Antonio to 34 wins in a weak West. Spurs still somewhat competitive before realizing they had a chance to tank for Wemby, never looked back. Atlanta traded Gallo and 3 firsts for the All-Star point guard after a humiliating first-round exit to Miami, and over a year removed from the conference finals, the Hawks expected Murray to move the needle, help out franchise star Trae Young with his defense, and setting Trae up for good looks off the ball, needing to take some of the pressure off. But the Hawks continue being mediocre, no improvements. The team's defense actually worse with Murray, despite the strong defensive reputation, all thrown out the window. The third worst defensive rating this season doesn't elevate the offense. After a $120 million extension last offseason, the franchise now trying to trade him also hasn't proven much in the playoffs, from looking like a top 25 player, now somewhere in the 50 range. If he's your first option, you're in the lottery. Second option, you end up between the 6 to 11 seed, but as a third option, for a team like the Lakers or Heat, they could make a serious run. Given his arrogance after leaving San Antonio, the brashy now 27-year-old out of Seattle, Washington, took a shot at Tony Parker for not mentoring him the way he should have. Also said, the way that system's set up, you're going to be losing for the next 15 years. From an organization that's first class and all professionalism, the erratic Murray then started trashing summer league players, trying to bully #1 pick Paolo Banchero, a player now he's inferior to. The fact of the matter is, Murray hasn't improved at all offensively in 3 years, still a bad three-point shooter, simply not a pure point guard, a score-first type guy in love with taking mid-range jays. His lack of defensive activity now way too evident. Seems like a player like him and Jeremy Grant, once they become 20-point scorers, just stop giving a shit about defense altogether. San Antonio perfectly sold high on him, realizing he's a low-end all-star that won't move any needle. The Hawks once again find themselves in the bottom tier of the play-in. Even if they win those, it'll be a first-round exit at most. Mel Bridges of the Brooklyn Nets, the delusional franchise refused to trade him, saying they're focused to build around the 27-year-old. What a joke of an absolute travesty! From 2 failed super teams in less than a decade with 0 conference finals appearance to show, to many thinking the Nets end up better after trading Kevin Durant and disgruntled star Kyrie. Many thought they could at least compete for a play-in spot, but stuck in no man's land. Do they want to tank or try to compete being who they are? Nobody truly knows, especially after going all in beating the Pistons only for former coach Jacques Vaughn to sit his starters in a home game versus the Bucks, MacLeod playing the first quarter to keep that game streak alive, and infuriated Bridges had every right to be frustrated. If he's truly the franchise guy, his opinion should carry heavy weight with the franchise. But to no avail, despite still never missing a single game for his career, his inconsistency, not knowing what you're getting every night, whether it's 25 to 30 points, can follow up with a 10 to 12 point stinker. At times just another guy out there. After getting traded, Bridges looked like a borderline superstar in the 24 game stretch, averages of over 28 points. The team also gave Cam Johnson 4 years, 94, a terrible move, thinking they could make some noise, even win a playoff series, and praying for a healthy Ben Simmons, more like a series of fairy tales. Bridges being a first option, couldn't even win a single playoff game against Philly, Game 4 without Embiid, went 6 of 18 from the field, Brooklyn apparently declining 4 first-round picks given his shaky performance as the number 1 guy, barely cracking 20 points a game, way less efficient, can't continue playing good defense given the offensive load he's failing to carry. Look, Bridges is a very good NBA player, every team would love to have him, but he's simply not a freaking number 1 option. Are the Nets franchise that dumb to comprehend that? His role playing under D Book and CP3 for Phoenix, literally the perfect complementary piece. His abilities and skill sets very similar to OG Anunoby, a great starter who provides a bit of everything to elevate for a superstar player. Many talked about MacLeod like he's some young star when he'll be 28 by next season. His skill set is meant to be a role piece for a contender. His 2 playoffs with the Suns, 35 games, a dozen points as a 3rd and 4th option, the truest definition of a role player. Last 4 games of the 21 finals, lackluster 7.8 points, attempting between 4 to 7 shots, played nowhere close to a star when needed. Last 4 games 2022 semis got destroyed by Luka, averaged 8.3 points, 35% from the floor. CP and Book got plenty of blame, but Bridges also nowhere to be found, got 0 blame simply because he's a clear role player. What in the Brooklyn Nets franchise do they not understand? MacLeod's not a top 30 player, but top 50. His excellent stretch last season was fun while it lasted, but you gotta be realistic. From being a great spot-up shooter and getting easy shots in the paint, having true playmakers in Phoenix, to trying to play like KD with Brooklyn, isolate too much, Bridges' offense simply isn't on that level. Expect him to be traded to a solid contender within the next year or 2. If he's on Philly, Indiana, or Sacramento, will absolutely excel on those teams. Lamelo Ball. Looking back, it's an absolute travesty. He won Rookie of the Year over Anthony Edwards, once a superstar, the others the supposed face of the biggest joke of a franchise, super injury prone, now 22 years old, not looking promising, has all the talent, skills, highlights, puts up high stats. But can he actually contribute to winning basketball? Edwards also played over 100 more NBA games than him, only making headlines now, laughing on the bench with his team down 30. When is LaMelo gonna get serious? A max extension of 5 years, 260 could be the next Ben Simmons caliber contract if he keeps getting hurt. Already developed bad habits, goofing around in Charlotte, having all the luxury material, $250 million to sit on the bench. Having lots of charisma off the court, that's cool and all, but what about having passion for winning games? Seems like he just loves having a great time regardless of his team's outcome. Is he the type of player to be first in the gym with a sense of purpose and drive, become a future All-NBA teamer given that insane contract he ain't living up to? Many questions whether he'll ever reach his ceiling. 0 leadership quality so far, might have to demand a trade from the dysfunctional franchise before things get even worse. Already having a reputation of being immature, his on-court abilities and hoop IQ top-notch, good enough to become a top 15 player if he wants, but the lack of durability super concerning given his brother Lonzo about to miss 3 years of playing time if he comes back early next season. If LaMelo's unavailable like this playing in a big market like New York or Los Angeles, there'd be heavy media scrutiny. That would force him to become a better player and grow up faster. But with the Hornets, who's the vets he listens to? Where's the accountability of his misbehaved teammates? If Charlotte don't get serious surrounding the right guys around LaMelo and build an established culture, things can turn south real quick. LaMelo might also need to hire Steph Curry's doctors to fix those ankles. Grant Williams, a former big-name role player for the Celtics, now 25 years old, went from the most likely team in the East to win a title next 2-3 years to a new opportunity looking to be a glue guy in Dallas to the bottom shelf of the league. Under contract 4 years, 53, not bad, but a player who's supposed to have high expectations coming into this season. Dallas couldn't wait to get rid of him when his three's not falling, simply not providing much value, not a tremendous athlete, one-dimensional offensively, not quite starting caliber in the league, trying to do too much on things outside his comfort zone, only to forget how to make threes, failed to gain Luka's trust, using those pump fakes, hesitation, trying to drive on big guys only to miss poorly. Now posting empty stats on a bad Charlotte team, will likely be sick to his stomach, potentially seeing his former team win a title several months from now. Caleb Martin of the Miami Heat. How he's been after that Game 7 Boston Conference Finals masterpiece, only subpar for Miami this season, averaging 10-5, nothing too impressive, just nothing more than a solid role player. His regular season numbers Similar to his last 2 seasons, many anticipated the 28-year-old to elevate his game. Started as a two-way contract guy, from being one vote shy of Eastern Conference Finals MVP, the biggest accomplishment on his NBA resume, but with the emergence of sensational rookie Jaime Jaquez, made Martin somewhat expendable, likely to opt out next season. Seems like a struggling team in Detroit or Charlotte will overpay for him. Until this coming playoff shows itself and Caleb steps up big time, he'll be making the big bucks. Whether he's just an average regular season player who elevates himself in the playoffs, or was it just a couple great series with a limited ceiling, we'll soon find out. Having knee injuries in the past, is he the next former Heat to just become banged up for a different team like Kendrick Nunn and Gabe Vincent? RJ Barrett of the Toronto Raptors, already year 5, the lack of improvement for his time in New York simply didn't work out, needing the ball in his hands to score. With 2 other high usage players better than him in Randle and Brunson, the talent is there, but the lack of development with the Knicks trying to contend right away, Barrett didn't cut it. Although more talented than OG, the Knicks play much better ball with a reliable established 3-and-D intangibles guy as a 3rd and 4th option. Barrett's lack of outside shot and poor free throw shooting also didn't help one of New York's main weaknesses. Having super high expectations, this season was a breaking point. Combined with his 4 years $120 extension, now having no pressure with the rebuilding Raptors, his game heavily reliant on confidence, showing some improvements. 55% from the field across 27 contests. Raptors fans hopeful him and Emmanuel quickly can be similar to DeRozan Lowry. Zach LaVine, the Chicago Bulls playing much better, happier without him. More chemistry and ball movement with the emergence of Kobe White. We all knew Zach was never that guy, but clearly a 3rd option on a better team. At this point, it'd be a celebration if the Bulls can somehow trade him and move on. The idea to build around him, laughable to begin with, now age 29, already in his 10th NBA season, and only 4 playoff games to show. Only a desperate team like Detroit or Washington would want him, not consider a plan A for contenders or a plan B or even a plan C, but a plan D, matter of fact, a plan F for failure. Getting paid Luka Doncic type money, an absolute travesty of all travesties. While the obvious disappointments, Ben Simmons somewhat on his way out the league after his contract's done with, the lazy motor of DeAndre Ayton, he'll play hard whenever he feels like it. Andrew Wiggins, after that 2022 playoff run, dealing with personal issues the last year and a half, has not gotten anything going for a consistent stretch. Could be on the trade market soon, while Cade Cunningham could be next on this list, needs to seriously turn it around as a #1 pick, but given the incompetency of Detroit's front office, might have to suffer 2 more massive losing seasons before any type of competitive basketball happens. Which one of these players on this list fooled y'all most? Your thoughts on the comments below, and I'll see y'all soon.